Well, welcome back to Express. We are following a very volatile situation going on in the city of Montreal. As you can see from these pictures, riot police being pelted with snowballs. These are an ongoing series of student protests. The provincial government held a two-day summit on education, wrapped up today. A number of students, some of the more radical ones, not happy with the decision to raise tuition fees modestly. You
mentioned some of the radical groups, and one in particular is ASSEI. Am I saying that right?
Yes, ASSEI.
And they wanted free tuition. They had said that they weren't going to attend the Education Summit. Other student groups did attend. They made it clear that they weren't going to, and they made it clear that they were going to organize a protest once the Education Summit ended, and that is what you're looking at right now. Now, we should kind of give you some background information. Yesterday, it was announced, Pauline Marois, the Premier of Quebec, announced that they'd be indexing university tuition by 3%, which means, basically $70 annually. That's how much it would go up. And a number of students were upset because last year, essentially, she had said that there would be no tuition hikes. So that you've got one group that said that they're not going to be part of the Education Summit because they want to pay no tuition whatsoever. And now you possibly have more students joining in because they hear that there's going to be this tuition hike, even though she had said that there wasn't going to be a tuition hike. So now a number of different students potentially taking part in this protest.
We've just passed the one-year anniversary, of course, of the protest that began in February of 2012 that brought Quebec to a standstill, I think it's fair to say. Throughout the spring, mass protests, a number of other groups joined in with the student movement, and Montreal at nighttime became just almost a carnival atmosphere of protests. There were a lot of skirmishes, hundreds of people arrested over the course of the springtime.
And, once again, we should point out that according to police, the protest that's been snaking through downtown since this afternoon was declared illegal because the route wasn't provided in advance, which is a requirement by a municipal bylaw. Todd, you would actually know this. There was a lot of discussion last year about, because of these protests, implementations of things like you can't wear a mask, et cetera, et cetera. What was the latest on that?
Well, what happened was the Parti Québécois spoke out very much against the Charest government's move on this, and when the Parti Québécois got into power, they turned time back a little bit, so to speak, in terms of some of these laws. And of course, they canceled the tuition fee increases that were the beginning of this, and they canceled some of those what were considered to be more draconian laws. I'll tell you this, though, Amanda, this is Saint Denis. I'm very familiar with this street. Carré Saint Louis is that park you see in the background. This is a major tourist area in the city, and you can see these running battles between police and the stun grenades as they're moving northward up Saint Denis towards the Plateau area, which is, of course, one of Montreal's most famous. There's Carré Saint Louis Square, right in the background there. And you can see sort of pitched battles, snowballs being thrown at the police as they move forward.
We were getting reports that protesters were throwing snowballs towards the police officers, but we just saw a police officer throw something at the protesters. We want to try and bring in Geneviève Beauchemin. She is in the thick of everything in Montreal. Jen, what are you seeing right now?
Well, right now we're seeing quite a number of police officers who have moved into the crowd here, and among them, Quebec Police Force officers. Now, this is something that we started to see at the end of the demonstrations when they were ongoing last year. That is to say that normally this is the Montreal Police that handles the duties here, of course, because this is Montreal. Now, Quebec Police Force officers are also coming to lend a hand because lending more officers to this, and they have moved into the crowd as well. Now, we're seeing quite a few officers that are at several corners in downtown Montreal, and protesters have started to disperse. It is somewhat calmer than it was quite a few minutes ago because at the moment they have managed to essentially sort of break off the crowd into smaller portions. Some of the demonstrators were talking about rejoining together, regrouping, so they would be able to rejoin together as a larger group. That at the moment that hasn't happened. We did see some arrests that were made earlier. We just don't know how many there were. Police are not confirming numbers at the moment.
Yeah, and Jen, this is obviously a tactic that police often use in order to try to corral the protests and break them off. We're looking at some really dramatic pictures from just a little bit earlier along Saint Denis, not far from where you are right now. What is the situation with the police and the powers they have? Because, you know, the Liberals got into so much trouble over bringing in this new law, then they were kicked out of power. So where do things stand in terms of that? How much power do police really have nowadays in Montreal for situations like this?
Well, they do have quite a bit of power in the sense that they are applying as well. What they're using, they say, is a municipal bylaw, which allows them to declare a demonstration illegal when they're not given the route for the demonstration, which they said that they had been saying earlier in the day that they had not been given that route. So it would be declared illegal from the beginning, but that it would be tolerated until there were demonstrations, until there were illegal acts that were committed. They said that as soon as those snowballs were being thrown at police officers, as soon as there were some rocks and some other projectiles thrown at them, that at that moment, this is when they moved in. It was a bit of a tense situation. Well, it was a very tense situation at that corner, and I think, in a sense, some of the police officers that had been accompanying the crowd for quite a few blocks. I was right alongside them. They were marching for quite a number of blocks. There were those police officers on horseback that were right along with them, and at a certain point, the situation got more tense between those officers and the protesters because at that exact moment there was a bit of a corner that was turned. They were a little bit stuck in a situation where there was a lot of snow and very little room for them to go anywhere, and that's where things seemed to escalate at that particular moment.